Hi everyone. So today we're going to discuss how when we feel stuck in our lives, the power to get out and get going is right there inside of us. And that powerhouse is called the subconscious mind. But either we don't know its power, or we don't know how to harness its power, or we do know, but we're not doing it right. So imagine you're driving down the motorway and you see someone driving a Porsche and they're only doing like 30 miles per hour and the speed limit is like 70 miles per hour. So as we go by, as we pass them by, we're like laughing like, you're not using the potential of that engine. It's like, why are you driving a Porsche? So it's the same with us. We all have access to this super powered engine within us. And in this video, I want to show you how to get unstuck by accessing the power of the subconscious mind. So in case you haven't met me before, my name is Nij Day. I'm a motivational speaker, a relationship coach, and a certified hypnotherapist. And my mission is to help people like you to raise your game. I know you're hungry for success. You're hungry to take it to the next level, to achieve that 2.0 version of you. That's why you're here today. So today what we're going to look at is what is the subconscious mind. We're going to look at how the subconscious mind blocks us and how to get unstuck. So let's talk about the anatomy of the mind. Now, I'm just going to keep this simple and talk about two major aspects, but there are more. So the first aspect, the one that we are all aware of, is called the conscious mind. Obviously, that's the reason why it's called the conscious mind, because we are aware of what's going on. There is another layer to the mind called the subconscious mind. Everything that's contained in the subconscious mind, we are not necessarily directly aware of. And sometimes that's where the problem lies. See, the conscious mind is responsible for 5% of our behavior. Psychologists have done research and they've monitored how people work. And they noticed that the conscious mind is only being used about 5% of the time in a typical day. And the subconscious mind is therefore directly responsible for 95% of our behavior. And this is the reason why New Year's resolutions don't work. Because if we are trying to make the change at the conscious level, which is only up to 5%, we're fighting a losing battle. As the day goes on, your willpower gets less and less and less. You know, by the time it's like 9 o'clock or 9:30, 10 o'clock, you're just like, I don't want to do anything more. Have you noticed that? That's because the conscious mind, that the willpower of the conscious mind is very limited. I'll give you a bonus hint. Do the mentally hard things as early as possible in the day. So for example, I like to do meditation every day. So generally speaking, I aim to do my meditation earlier in the day because as the day goes on, it gets harder and harder for the mind to actually focus because the willpower is less. So let's look at the subconscious mind. It is responsible for our heartbeat. Does anybody know how many times a day the heart beats? 100,000 beats a day. What about our breathing? 20,000 breaths a day. Now, you've been breathing all this time while I've been talking, but you may not be consciously aware of it. But now, I bet you're consciously aware of your breathing. But even if you weren't, the subconscious mind does it on autopilot. Like when we're sleeping, how does your heart keep beating? It's like if you went to sleep, so we're switching the conscious mind off. How does the heart keep beating? No, it's the subconscious mind that's handling it. And even our breathing, how do you remember to breathe while you're sleeping? All handled on autopilot by the subconscious mind. That's how powerful it is. Things like brushing your teeth, things like turning the tap in the right direction, driving to work. You get into a car, you're already thinking about work, you think about what you're going to say to your boss. You don't even know when your hand is on the gear stick, when you're changing the gear, when your one foot is going down on the clutch or foot is on the accelerator. Your mind is just somewhere else. That's because it's all being automated by the subconscious mind. So wouldn't it be great if we could program that subconscious mind to do what we want it to do rather than the opposite? So the conscious mind, we have lots of thoughts going on. And when those thoughts are repeated over and over and over, effectively when they are ingrained into the subconscious mind, then we refer to them as beliefs. Now, where do beliefs come from? Sometimes a belief will come from a particular experience or an event, something often traumatic, can happen. And as a direct result of that, we form a particular belief. It could be it could be something as simple as a parent shouting at a child. So, for example, on their birthday, a young child is really excited to buy a particular present or a gift. They're out shopping and they ask, "Mummy, mummy," or "Daddy, daddy, can I have this?" And the parent turns around and shouts at them and says, "No!" Now, externally, that's not traumatic. But what happens inside of that child? That could be traumatic. That child could develop the belief, my mummy, my daddy doesn't love me. And then that sets off a whole chain of events throughout that entire child's life, that child and ultimately to adulthood. So that's how that particular belief was formed. Now, regards trauma, I'm going to talk about that in another video. Where else do beliefs come from? Something someone else says to you, especially an authority figure, and especially before the age of 14. Psychologists have understood that the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, they're almost like one, up until the age of 14. Up until that time, what we call the critical layer hasn't formed. So that line that was there between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, that's called the critical layer. So that isn't fully developed until roughly about the age of 14 or 15. So there's no discerning going on. You know, a teacher says, "Oh, you're not going to be any good at maths. You're not going to be any good at dancing," whatever it is. And we take that seriously. A parent might say to us, you know, in anger, "Oh, you're such a good for nothing." We take that to heart. That becomes a belief. So something someone says. And then, of course, something we say to ourselves. A typical thing that I often come across, especially with clients, is in their childhood, if they had some form of, say, some skin problem, so for example, acne or something like that, spots, then they often, when they look in the mirror, they often form negative beliefs about themselves. And that obviously then leads to everything that you see happening in their life. So we need to address this. Now, the way the subconscious mind works is it doesn't distinguish between whether a belief is true or not true. It doesn't distinguish whether a belief is good for you or not good for you. It just absorbs it. It's like a piece of paper. It's like a blank slate. And whatever you write on it, it just accepts. Whether it's true or not, whether it's good or not, doesn't matter. So now, what are your beliefs around money? What are your beliefs about relationships? What are your beliefs about the world? Sometimes somebody may say, "Oh, the world is such a horrible place. Life is against me." What are the beliefs that you have at the subconscious level regards money, relationships, or the world? Please write it in the comments. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. You can write the good ones as well. So I'll just take that one there. So money is hard to keep. Relationships are hard. The world is going into the end times. It's all going to pot. Now, can you just feel the emotional state of somebody who has those beliefs? What do you think their life is going to look like? So when we have those kind of beliefs going on, we filter we filter the world through those beliefs, and it just gets reinforced more and more and more. How do you think that person is going to engage with the world? So you'll notice that some of our beliefs are good and they work for us. Some of our beliefs work against us. When they were formed, how they were formed, in one sense is irrelevant. But the point is that belief working for us or against us? That's what we need to look at. But I will ask, it will become relevant when we talk about perhaps trauma, is what are the beliefs that you have about yourself? And often that can come from trauma. So, as I was saying, some of our beliefs are good and we want to keep those. They're healthy, they help us. That's why the successes that you've achieved so far in your life, they often came from many of these beliefs. And where we are, shall we say, being held back is where we have these beliefs that are against us. And these are at the subconscious level. They're not at the conscious level. So we can try to understand this difference. So if at the conscious level, we have the shall we say, the thought that I want to be rich. We have the conscious desire to be rich. But at the subconscious level, we've got the story or the limiting belief that I don't deserve to be rich. Which part of the mind would win and what would happen to their wealth? So for example, there are many people who win the lottery. So the fact that they're playing the lottery, what does that mean? Consciously, they desire to be rich. Otherwise, they wouldn't be spending that money every week playing the lottery. So they have the conscious desire to win. And then one day they get the news and wow, for example, one person from the north of England, we don't like to name and shame here, but if you really want to, you can look up his story online. So one person in the north of England in 2002, he won £9.7 million. That's a lot of money. And he was 19 years old at the time. So with that £9.7 million, you would think that now for the rest of his life, this guy is sorted. 19 years old, £9.7 million is sorted. And at the time, before he won, he was working as a refuse collector. So if at the subconscious level, he's got the belief that I don't deserve to be rich, which part of the mind would win and what would happen to their wealth? They will lose all their money. And that's exactly what happened to this person. By 2010, so 8 years later, he had lost everything. And he was back to working as a refuse collector. How does somebody burn through £9.7 million? Well, he managed to do it in 8 years. So if at the subconscious level, he doesn't believe he deserves that money. So he played the lottery, and I think he, in an interview, he said something along the lines of, it wasn't mine anyway. So he played the lottery, he won all that money, but felt like, okay, this isn't really my money anyway. And as a result, because that's there at the subconscious level, he lost it all. Didn't believe he deserved it. So in 2019, there was an article in the Washington Post, and it said, according to the National Endowment for Financial Education, about 70% of people who win the lottery or receive a large windfall go bankrupt within a few years. 70%. It's a huge number. And what is it to do with? It's to do with their story, their bad beliefs about money. See? Because remember, the thought might be there that I want to be rich, but that's only 5% of our behavior. The bad belief about money is 95%. So which one wins? Subconscious mind always. The story is I don't deserve to be rich. That's what's going to win. There is a saying, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So hopefully that starts to make sense now, because a rich person has a good story, has the mentality of a rich person. And the poor person has a mentality of a poor person. So the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. What's a rich person's story about money? It's something along the lines of, I deserve to be super wealthy. I spend my riches wisely. And just note, by the way, a rich person isn't rich because they don't spend. Actually, a rich person is rich because they spend, but they're very clever in how they spend. They use it, generally speaking, to invest. So I know somebody said earlier that they have that negative, that they're not negative, they have a belief that money should only be saved and never spent. That's not how you actually become rich. Like super rich, especially. You'll notice rich people are always investing in themselves, investing in properties or whatever it is. So they spend their riches wisely. That's a good money story. Then what about a relationship? What about our beliefs in terms of a relationship? So if it starts off with, I'm not good enough, so we feel low about ourselves, then we always end up arguing with our partner because we don't feel we're good enough. Then eventually the relationship breaks. What happens? We attract a new partner and go through the same cycle again. So what we have to do is we have to start with destroying the negative belief in the first place. That's where everything starts from. If you take our life to be like a car, there's the accelerator pedal and then there's the brake pedal. And negative beliefs are like us putting our foot down on the brake pedal. Even if simultaneously we've got a foot on the accelerator, negative beliefs are like putting the foot down on the brake pedal. And the car either comes to a halt. So some of us might be stuck in those particular areas. The car comes to a halt, or it's going really slowly. Or now this is really interesting. With some people in the world, they're actually very successful. The accelerator, in one sense, is down hard, and that engine is making that car move, but they've still got negative beliefs. They've still got the foot down on the brake. So what's happening is they're burning a lot of fuel. By the time they come back home, even though they're so successful, for example, at work, they're so successful, they'll come back home totally exhausted, day after day after day, because the negative story is working against them. It's like having the brake on at the same time. It's just draining fuel, draining fuel, draining fuel. So I've had a few clients like that. And what we've done is we've created, as you're about to see, we've created a new story to now take the foot off the brake. That's the key thing. So now the accelerator can go hard, again, get pressed down hard, and they're flying in their career, their relationship, their financial goals, whatever goal it is, without the drain of the brake, without the drain of the constant drain of that negative chatter in the head. So this is what we want to do. We want to change our BS. So let me be clear here. BS stands for bad story. We want to change our BS into an ES, an empowering story. So how do we do that? We have our beliefs at the subconscious level. Those lead to our emotions. Our emotions then drive our behavior, our actions, and then our actions are what leads to our results. And interestingly, this is I've done this as a circle because the results also reinforce the beliefs. So whatever we're seeing in our life, that is reinforcing what we already believe. So if I asked you the question, what is holding you back? When you think about the main goal that you're stuck on, what's the negative story? What's the negative belief holding you back in your story? So for example, with one client came to me, he's happily married, but in terms of his career, he felt like he was trapped, he was stuck, he felt like his family was a burden at this stage of his life. And as a result, he was just ended up watching TV in the evening and constantly felt burnt out. So although he loved his family, had this inner conflict going on, he loved his family, but at the same time, he felt his career wasn't going anywhere because he needed more time. And his family felt like they were the burden that was stopping him from achieving more in his career, doing what he needed to in his career. It's a really bad story. So as a result, neither was he, in one sense, engaging properly with the family because he just felt resentful towards them. But then neither was he engaging in his career and spending that time at home doing what he needed to. He just ended up watching TV because he was just in this constant state of frustration. So then we changed his story to, I have a career where I'm doing what I love doing. I'm earning a minimum £60,000 per year. I spend time with family and have time for my career. I feel like I have enough time. I have choices. I feel like the stars are aligned and I'm getting the green light. I'm flowing with the current I'm flowing with the current, as in the stream, rather than against it. So that was the story that we embedded into his subconscious. Complete change of story. So imagine that story that he's got in his subconscious, that it feels like he's trapped, he's stuck, his family is a burden, and all of that emotion that's going on. While that story is there in his subconscious, that's what he's projecting. That's what he's living. And 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. So that's why we had to come in, change it at the subconscious level. And now initially, did he believe it? So sometimes you might write your story and you'll be like, oh my God, this just sounds too good to be true. So I want you to understand the story is not what is going on right now. The new story that you're going to write is not what is going on right now. It's almost like we're taking your subconscious like a blank sheet of paper. Whatever's going on right now, just wipe the slate right now in your subconscious. What story would you write? It doesn't matter in one sense what's going on right now. Our story, and one of the reasons why we call it a story is because it is just like a movie. Your life is just like a movie. And how does any great movie start? It starts with a story. And then that story, it starts off in somebody's head, maybe as an idea. And then that story ends up as a script. It's written down fully. And that's what I'm going to ask you to do. Is I'm going to ask you to now begin to write down, what story would you like to have? Great movie always starts off with the story and the script. And then that script is given to the director. The director then manifests, he then creates that amazing movie that we end up watching in the cinema, watching online, and amazing soundtrack and dialogue and action-packed romance, so many fight scenes, so many things that go on. That all started with the script. And in our case, we're writing the story and giving it to the director. And who's the director of the movie of our life? Who is responsible for 95% of our behavior? Subconscious mind. We've got to start accessing, we've got to start using that powerhouse that we have called the subconscious. Now, one of the things that I asked him to do after, shall we say, writing the overall goal, overall what it is that he wants to achieve, I asked him about his beliefs. What did he believe? What was there at the subconscious level that he believed about his life, about him? And this is what he said. To achieve my goal, I'll have to dedicate less time to family. I'm not fulfilling my potential. What I create might not be good enough. I am not good enough. Now you can start to see the negative beliefs he has about himself. What is his relationship like with himself? It's not worth doing it if I don't enjoy it. I am trapped in a job that I don't enjoy anymore. It's not worth even trying if it's not going to be perfect, is one thing that many of my clients come to me about, is that this idea of perfectionism. And what happens is, if it's not going to be perfect, they don't want to start. Or there's just so much anxiety because it has to be perfect, which is a very detrimental belief to have if you want to progress. So we change this, transform this to this. I can achieve anything. I am organized and I plan my time well. I am worthy of success. Wow. Just allow that to sink in. I am worthy of success. I don't measure my self-worth based on others' opinions. Instead, I trust and believe in my own talent and ability. Doing something is better than doing nothing. So this one, that last one there, directly counteracts this. It's not worth even trying if it's not going to be perfect. No, better to do something, even if it's not, absolutely 100%. Better to do something than nothing. My self-worth is not attached to the product or the output. So when I analyzed it with him in more detail, that why is it's not worth even trying if it's not going to be perfect, was that his self-worth was attached to it being perfect. So if it wasn't perfect, it meant he wasn't perfect. So when we change this belief that my self-worth is not attached to the product or output, that allowed us to break that negative pattern, that old belief. So in this way, we wrote his entire story. So we have here the results, the beliefs, the emotions, and the actions. And the thing in the middle, I'm going to save for another video. So once you've written your story, you've written the goal, you've written the beliefs, the new goal, the new beliefs, like a blank slate. You've written the movie script. Now what we want to do is we want to imprint that story into the subconscious. So how do you do it? You read that story every day. So especially read that story before bed and then first thing in the morning. And the reason why is because when you first wake up, or as you're, shall we say, starting to go into that sleepy mode, your brain starts to go into a lower frequency called theta state. And what happens in theta state, it's almost like the reverse of what generally is going on. You can look at it almost like an output or input. So generally speaking, during the day, the subconscious mind is outputting. It's kind of doing stuff. But in those critical period just before bed, just before falling asleep, and first thing in the morning, roughly about 20 minutes, those are critical periods where it's almost like the reverse is happening. It's taking an input. What you read first thing in the morning is critical on how your day goes on. So, for example, I send out daily inspirational messages, and I try to send those messages in the morning. Maybe not first thing when people wake up, but at least it kind of interrupts any negative patterns that happen during the morning. When they read that, it's like let's get back on track, like that. So what we read first thing in the morning is critical. If you're reading the news, for example, that's the worst thing to read. If you're reading WhatsApp messages and there could potentially be something very attacking or disturbing, immediately that goes into the subconscious. And if you noticed, it affects your mood throughout the entire day. Why? Because the subconscious is recording at that time. So what do we want to do? We want to input that powerful, empowering, motivating story. That's what needs to go into our subconscious first thing in the morning. So when you read that story, my life is like this is happening, this is my belief, empowering beliefs, and that's all going in, you have a completely different day. And more importantly, is that as we do this every day, you notice, said here, this is a daily thing. As you do this every day, what happens is it gets imprinted into the subconscious. All the old programming that's there, it starts to get deleted. And I'm going to show you in a moment how that works. We memorize, as we read it every day, it's kind of like we memorize that story, memorizing that goal is going in. Then we close our eyes and we visualize it. This is the process. First thing in the morning, wake up, you read your story, you close your eyes, and then you start to visualize it. You live it, you experience it as if it's happening now. And the key thing is emotionalize. So memorize, visualize, and then emotionalize. So as you're in that visualization, as you're experiencing that, shall we say, the end part of that goal, you're feeling the emotions, the excitement, the celebration, the smiles, the laughs, the joy. That emotion especially is what helps to imprint it into the subconscious. One person today, so I sent out a affirmation today as the daily inspiration. One person replied to me saying, affirmations don't really work because I don't really feel that. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. Like that. So when we say something along the lines of I am enough, it's almost like the subconscious mind just goes, BS, bad story, or the other one. The subconscious mind goes, BS, you're not enough. You're not good enough. So initially when we do the affirmation, the thing is, if we just say the affirmation, if we just read that story and just say it out loud, I am living the best life I can. I'm waking up at whatever time up. Let's just say this is my ideal day, shall we say. Now I'm waking up at whatever time I want to, and I'm earning whatever it is, let's say £150,000 a year, blah, 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 blah. Your subconscious mind is going, BS, BS, bad story, BS, BS, like that. And so it's not actually getting imprinted. So that is the reason why visualize and emotionalize are very important, because if you just say the words, it's not going to be as effective. It will be effective if you keep doing it, because eventually, just like anything, if somebody keeps saying to us, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this, eventually it does go in. It's like it breaks through the critical layer and goes into the subconscious. But it could take a long time, sometimes even years. And we don't want to do this in years. We want to snap the gap. We want to get this as quickly as possible. I'm sure that's the reason why you guys are here. I want to get this as quickly as possible. So we need to give it some emotion. So when we're visualizing it as if it's happening now, it's important that there is very strong emotions. We visualize it to the point, use sensory data when you're writing a story, so that it's like, wow, I'm experiencing it right now. Like one of my stories about, for example, about money is that I'm sitting on the beach and the wind, the gentle breeze is caressing my face. I'm using words like that in my story. It's a story. It's very sensory, right? The wind The gentle breeze is caressing my face. The beautiful sun is kissing my cheeks. You use words like that. That very tantalizing, stimulating. So now when I'm visualizing, it's like, oh yeah, I can actually feel the sun. Oh, I can actually feel the gentle breeze. Then I'm looking at my banking app and I'm seeing that figure. And I've written a figure that excites me. So I remember initially writing my goal and I wrote a figure. And when I tried to do the visualization, in the actual visualization, sitting there on the beach, I was like, hmm. And I realized that number is not big enough. So I changed it, made it bigger. And then the next time I did the visualization, I was like, then suddenly I felt the emotion. It was like a oomph that just came out of me. I looked at that number, I was like, whoa, yes, that's what I'm talking about. So that immediately, the smile was on my face. It was like I could feel it throughout my entire body. And that's what we want. Because when you experience it like that, it gets imprinted on the subconscious. And in one sense, you don't have to do anything else. You then get on with the rest of your day. But because it's been imprinted into the subconscious mind, remember the subconscious mind is responsible for 95% of your behavior. What happens? You start to do things, opportunities start to come your way, and you respond to them in a way, in an appropriate way to take that opportunity. You'll start, I'm like, what on earth happened to my life? What happened is that you imprinted it in the subconscious. You gave the movie script to the director. Right now, what does the director have? He has the story, whatever it is for you. So, save all your money, or whatever, whatever the I can't remember what some of the negatives are. Relationships are hard. So now the director is trying to find, okay, let me get her or him into this relationship, and then let them experience. See, relationships are hard. Yep, tick. That's the story you've given to the director of the movie. We need to change that story. So once that story has been given to the director, now the director sees, relationships are easy, let's say. Relationships are beautiful, whatever it is. And it's like now the director's like, oh, I've got a different script now. Relationships are beautiful. Right. Get this girl here. Get this guy here. And then what do you experience? You experience relationships are beautiful. That's the story you imprinted. That's the story you gave to the director of your movie. So this is what is so powerful. It's totally getting you unstuck from where you are. And this person, Napoleon Hill, he's one of the godfathers of manifesting. So he said this: you can never have riches in great quantities unless you can work yourself into a white heat of desire for money and actually believe you will possess it. He talks about this white heat of desire. It's like, that's about the emotionalize. Memorize, visualize, and emotionalize. It's that emotion that creates that white heat of desire. If you never see great riches in your imagination, you will never see them in your bank balance. And obviously the principle here is true of whatever your goal is, whether it's money, whether it's relationships, whether it's health, like that. So just quickly then, so what's the science behind embedding? So imprinting. So if you have one particular thought, these dots you see here, they are a representation of the neural pathways in our brain. So if we have one particular thought, certain neurons will fire and connect together. So it's like an energy will go through it to, shall we say, contain that thought. So for example, if we say, I believe in myself, who thinks that's a good belief to have? Now, I believe in myself. So if we want to, shall we say, embed that, if we just say once, I believe in myself, what happens is that energy goes through those neurons. It creates that neural pathway. But because we only said it once, the energy dissipates. And then when we ask you, do you believe in yourself? It's like, no. Why? Because it's not been embedded. So what has to happen is it has to be embedded. It has to be repeated over and over and over and over like this. And you'll see the pathway is getting thicker and thicker and thicker. Those neurons are strengthening that pathway. That energy is getting sustained now. And this is just like, for example, if we wanted to create a pathway through the forest, a dense forest like this. And so maybe we start by, chopping the trees, and we manage to create a pathway that's there. But if we don't continue to read that story, if we don't continue to imprint it, what happens is the pathway gradually gets overgrown again, and all the trees come back and everything comes back and that pathway disappears. So the key thing is we've got to keep at it. We've got to keep reading that story every day, ideally twice a day, once in the morning, once at night, like that before bed. Read that story, embed it. And as you keep reading it, what happens? It's like we create a wonderful pathway, a strong pathway. We establish the pathway, just like you see there's a road now through the forest. It's not just a diddly little pathway, it's a road. And so the goal here is to write your story and then embed it into the subconscious. So I have an online course that allows you to create this. It goes through step by step. And at the end of the course, you will create this along with that thing in the middle. But like I said, I'm going to save that for another video. So if you enjoyed this and you want that step-by-step guide, I have an online course. It's called the Success Breakthrough Workshop. It goes through everything that we've just spoken about today. You can go ahead and do that yourself, or you can go through that workshop and get more detail. You'll get the nuances of how to write everything. Actually, I'll quickly just show you what the course looks like. So it's an online course. You can access it as soon as you've made the payment. So you can see the Success Breakthrough Workshop has 10 videos. So it goes through the introduction to the three ingredients of success. It goes through who are you, the systems you require, how to change your story, 3 parts to that, and then creating the powerful emotional state. And then you've got the conclusion. Now, alongside, so let me just show you, for example, so this talks about what we've spoken about today. You can see, so it opens up as a video, and then you hit play. Let's move on now. And it opens up, and then me talking through the story there, and then it goes through exactly what you need to do. And every so often, what it will say is pause the video, and then it allows you to write whatever it is you want to write in that time. And alongside this course, I'm doing a deal. You'll get the Attracting Financial Abundance. And again, this is similar. So you have the 5 principles of the attraction. So use that story. And then this one talks about how to use that story in the manifesting principles, the 5 principles: focus, feel, etc. and free. Adapt. And again, it's 4 videos, this one. Again, you just press play and it goes through. And there's lots of things, additional things to help you with. Like, this is really important. What you can control, what you can only influence, and what you can't control. So again, that will help you to embed into your subconscious. As well as that, there is a bonus free ticket to the Loving Yourself workshop in 2024. Now, it's not going to happen in March. It is going to happen sometime this year, but sorry, there's a slight delay. But as soon as I have more information, I will let you know about that as well. So you get all 3 of these: Success Breakthrough Workshop, Attracting Financial Abundance. So Success Breakthrough Workshop currently is £199. Attracting Financial Abundance is £50, and the ticket to Loving Yourself Workshop is £35. However, there is a deal going on right now, all 3 courses, and you can check it out at www.nijday.com/store, and I'll send it to you all via email. Now, sometimes people know that they have a certain block that's there, and they want to have something to talk to. So some of you can just you do the workshop, you write that goal, you embed it into the subconscious, and it's great. Some of you already be aware that you've got some deep blockers there that may need more one-to-one coaching to get through. So I'm happy to do that. I do one-to-one sessions for £80 per hour. Even just writing your story itself, we can do that in a 2-hour session. And so if you want to do it online, you can see the deal there, or you can do it with me, and I'll create the story for you. I'll do all the writing. You just sit there and relax and do all the talking, and I'll create all the story for you, and then I'll send it to you as a PDF, and you've got it there to read. So you can contact me via WhatsApp on this number, or you can email nijdaycoaching@gmail.com, or even go to the website www.nijday.com, and you can book in a session there. So let me give you my concluding words. When you're stuck, stop and think. You have a powerhouse inside of you, a Porsche. So start retuning the engine by writing your new story and then imprint it into the subconscious and watch your own movie unfold. So this is what you have to remember, that you have that Porsche. You're driving a Porsche. You have a powerhouse inside of you. Give that story to retune the engine, give that right, in other words, write that new story and imprint it and just watch that movie, that beautiful movie unfold.